huge inspiration or faith and bring the meaning out of it. Okay. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for all the sentient beings. Simon is here. Okay. Okay. So I was thinking to do a little bit of kind of revision about His Holiness. So anyway, we had a great time, so I don't need to repeat. So maybe I go through the Shantideva's Bodhisattva's life. So I guess we are on the verse number 41. Before that, if we look back before where we stopped, when we think about the anchor, it is very important to actually debate with yourself. The purpose of debating with your debating partner in the monastery or wherever you are, the purpose is, this morning His Holiness said very kindly, he said, the debate is to bring the kind of awareness of, how do you say, samjung?
Cookie?
Samjung.
Samjung, because of Samjung Bisherab saying there.
Yeah, Samjung Shirab.
The wisdom which arises from contemplation.
The wisdom which arises from contemplation, right?
Contemplation, yeah.
Okay. And then after that, slowly the contemplation and concentration, right? Getting familiar with the what you have thoroughly investigated. So you have certainty that you have a very kind of a strong foundation-based faith there, then thinking about making it much stronger without help of shamatha, no possible. So before that, we have to do a little bit of research and analytical meditation. But that's what His Holiness said this morning. So it's very important. So similarly, when we look at the Shantideva's work, it's more about debating with your own negative emotions. So we need to know this kind of debate system, right? And then here, when we look at it, about the anger, so as why we should, the reason why we should debate with our anger, because once anger is there, no room for compassion for a particular person or the whole sentient being. So for that reason, we need to have we don't want to lose what we appreciate, which is the compassion, love. So now, before once anger manifests already, then there's no way to stop it, because like we are kind of possessed or we are crazy already. So before there, a Tibetan we have seen, before the river flows, we have to make some boundary there. So that's what we should be doing. That's what Shantideva is giving us a tip. So for that reason, for anger, before where we stopped, the verse number, I think 39 and 40 is talking about the person who harms us. It's their kind of a nature to harm us. Very good one. Is it nature of the sentient being to harm us? Then if you, at the moment, sometimes it's better to say, because if that person is very, very short-tempered, so then it is a kind of like a person's kind of nature, right? But that nature is not fixed. But in our samsara, we have saying his nature is very short-tempered. That's what we say. So Shantideva is being very kind with us, saying, yes, let's say for the moment that nature of that our enemy is to harm us. Then what? So you already know the answer. You already have an answer. It's his nature. So why to fight with that person? It seems like you are putting your hand in a fire, knowing that it has already burned and it will burn and it will be burning forever and it will harm you forever. So stay away from it. That was the first kind of advice. That's very good debate. So you don't need to go out to ask for somebody's advice. So now, here at this moment, this verse number 40, now we need a strong guidance. Because when we try to bring, it is not their nature. It is like a cloud covered the sky. So that means the temporary degree.
Yeah, temporary or transient is also quite a nice word.
Transient?
Transient.
Okay.
Transient means
Transient.
it's coming and going,
yeah. And there, I think with the help of emptiness or selflessness will really help us here at this point. But anyway, did I request you to think about this with the emptiness or not? I hope I have. Okay, that's very good. So I hope you have thought about it. Now, verse number 41. Yukbala songwe girl te keti pemba latona ten shedan ki bebe nina shedan lato rigs. Verse number 41, please.
If I become angry with the wielder, although I am actually harmed by the stick, then since the perpetrator too is secondary, being in turn incited by hatred, I should be angry with the hatred instead.
Now maybe I will say that in Tibetan. 콘도사 차베지기 딱게저를 샤도죠. 디탄다디 단다 십주시직바 포토본디 딱 콘도사 차베 주고다 당동양 안주기 아니 다 콘도사 차바다 남사 콘도 코랑기 리시몬도 줄여도 매 쳐그데 이내 양안 좀 맞소네 띵내지라 그러봐 딱 그렇지 세주와 띵내 다 띵내 디 타비쳐도 다 탑시 딜랍는 거 요소리 디마 용으로 소당 그랬으나 다 단다 콘도 가르치는 거 사고 요리스 와 다 콘도 사고 김전에 콩할 내버게 버렸어 오케이 다 내버게 버이나 콜로 콘도 사와 미리비 김전 가르치나 아니 고랑기 랑신 이나니 콜로 콘도 사고 해도 아니 루보이나 딜레장 콘도 사고 해도 시tum진이기 바카까지 다 다다디 딜이야 가르치나 다 단다 동동양 아절 때 세미나로야 아니 콘트리뷰 마선에 디기 가르소리 균저도 인플루언스로 하데 봐 디시도 잠베 땅야 리버 직당나지 안 가지고서나 아니 콜이야 알로 무슨네 송슬라베나 무슨네 가르제 되거든 무슨 가리네 무슨네 가리네 버스는 삼에 오지 당베나 그 가줄이야 자과 쉬여비나 자과지 키원지 쉬비나 자과디기 네 간로 도스케비 인자 무슨 뇌야디 당부 가리네 소서는 자과디기 뇌 소스 다 삼당당다 난 나송아스 라비나 나야 디기 무슨 두디 가르치었으나 자과디기 쳐버 그러와 다 뭐네잖아 그런 콘로디 자과를 사고 요디 자과를 사고 두스 테네 자과 키원이 라과디기 그랬어 양조야 테르드 라과레 콘로 삼아송스 다 아니 다 파도 운도 잠베 아니 가르쳐 그래 간사 코라로 주고 운도 잠베 다 디야고도 와 아주 동니기 삼로 당당하고 지글레고도 와 콘도 사사기 시디다 돌기도 와 또 운도 잠베 다 무엇을 요 말을 다 균이만도 삼다면 균이 아니 네베쟁이 가르래 슬라도 잠베 아니 디르도 가서 유벌라 종을 그때 그때 편발라주나 대시당 기베베스다 당원에 전에 파 딩네 파죠 두두 이 균이 꾸롱 친인디 강사시네 딱 컨트롤을 샤스 다 인도 잠베 강사 네버 체스에디 머리비 원기 짐바다 그래서 머리비스 컨트롤 쉐브레스나 아니 셰당 컨트롤 코널 아니 컨트롤 산에 띠도 어디 가르친 사기요 말씀하죠 니나 세지도와 측디 단다 English translation 안으로디 세브하고 마소 니나세 간대죠 니나세도 인지 민지 컨트롤 사고 요나세 선로시르샤 디닝지고도 봐디 English translation 안디 가르면 미신 니나 인지 민지 저랑 게딱 컨트롤 사고 요나스 아니 셰당을 바토 되게 두마르 베세죠
Okay, so so this is following on from the verses where we talked about whether it's the nature of the person to get angry or whether it's a kind of temporary or transient character to them, and so these verses are in the moment when somebody is this is probably not because the contra sabe gapsu di mares di chisu di
jesu
yeah
jesu
not a time when we get you're really if you're sort of attacked or blamed or something and you're in the full flow of your kind of retaliatory anger. It's more later on when this verse is kind of trying to help us to look back and find a way to reduce the feeling that we had, the feeling of anger that we had, and for the future. So it's sort of asking us why are you getting angry? For instance, so it says in the verse, about if somebody if somebody attacks you with a stick or something like that, then we ask ourselves the question, why get angry? And the reason that we respond with is, it's because they harmed us. And then above in the two reasons, we went through this kind of idea, well, if they harmed you, is it in their nature to harm, or is it in their nature to harm and therefore nothing to do, or is it a sort of temporary thing in them, and it also gives reasons for that. But what we're talking about is how, if the influence, under the influence of the anger, we're looking at what is the thing that directly harmed us. So then we ask the question, what is it that directly harmed us? And the only answer, for instance, if someone has beaten us with a stick, then the answer we can come up with is that it's the stick that actually directly. What's the thing that literally hurt me? When we say I'm hurt, what is the thing that literally caused our body to hurt? And that thing is the stick. So we can say that the direct cause of me being hurt, and therefore, because you say the reason I'm getting angry is because I was harmed. What was I directly harmed for? I was directly harmed by the stick. So in that sense, we would feel that you need to get angry with the stick, because that's the direct cause of the harm, which then leads to your feeling of a kind of retaliatory anger. But then if we continue to follow that reason, so that's like the direct cause of harm. If we sort of look at the indirect causes of harm, then we follow that line back, then you would say, well, there's the hand which wielded the stick is kind of indirectly causing the harm. And if we keep following it back, we come to the person, and maybe a sort of little bit influence on it, with the sort of kind of little bit mixing it with the understanding of the empty nature of what is the actual nature of or something, in a way that we searching when we're looking for emptiness, and what's the actual object of that we feel is the object of our anger. And then, of course, now we're looking at indirect causes. So if we keep following that line of reasoning back, we come to the motivational force. So we come to the person, and then we come to the other person's anger, and then you come to the motive. And if we keep searching, we come to the kind of motivational force behind why the person beat us with the stick. And that would be, let's say it's the anger in their continuum. So why would you not place the blame on the anger and the other their anger? And so if you really need to find a place to place the blame, and therefore to feel the need to get angry, it should be the anger that motivated the other person.
So up to this, if we can bring this, our logic and understanding of this kind of analysis,
Analysis.
And then we will come to the only possibility will be left to bring our aversion is towards the other person's aversion. So it's meeting the what we call in top two robbers or kasuleta me
two
robbers meeting. Then ultimately, what will the benefit of this up to taking until seeing the real enemy of ours, not real, but we shouldn't say that other people's anger is our real enemy. Then somehow there would be our anger has some clinging point in that person. So still we will have an anger left with that person for sure. for that reason, now once we can come to this kind of way of logic, and then the benefit, I think, is we cannot stay angry with other people's anger directly. The logic I have in my mind is automatically we will have a compassion towards others when we come to this point. Why compassion? Because it's in our nature to differentiate person and its action. It's in our nature. It's in our nature, but what is not in our nature is when you are angry, the person in action are same. That is our nature too. That is not fixed nature, but once we have this gift of when we are angry, and then if you want to say sorry to other person, what is your best excuse? You will say, I'm really sorry, I have this misunderstanding about you, and so I this not understanding very well, then the anger just came to me and then I attacked you, I'm really sorry. So here, the way we describe is all the actions, that you will never say I'm a bad person, but you have all this kind of thinking, I and my anger. So then this will be the first kind of seed to bring the compassion towards others, not losing the. Did you understand? Is it like 50-50, or should I say that in Tibetan? Is that okay? Okay. If not, then maybe Simon can answer that. Simon, go to Swan. Okay. Odirisha. Chivita to Shivita Cordoso. That in verse number 42. Dagingunji Simchan Latin Java you never che. Tebe Simjan Sechapa. Dala never di chungri. This is very powerful. So the verse number 41 is something like with a logic. And now the verse number 42 is having a strong faith in the causal chain of the karma. So once the person who does not have this understanding, then we cannot practice this. The person who has a kind of faith in law of causality, then this will automatically go 41 to 42, no problem at all. So when you look at it, and then if you listen to the translation at the Kelsey, 42, please.
Previously, I must have caused similar harm to other sentient beings. Therefore, it is right for this harm to be returned to me, who caused injury to others.
They have a right. That's what it said. They have a right to do this. It is. Normally, they don't have a right. In the West, they don't have a right to do this to me. But Shantideva is saying they have a right to do this to me. But this it's not a contradictory. This is way of thinking. Yes, they don't have a right to do this to me, but still, what you believe or what you think, even it's right, but it's happening. It will happen again. So that means in this life I haven't done, but I believe in a beginningless life I have spent with this particular person. We made so many connections. Look at this life, how you make a connection with the other people, gossiping, criticizing, and everything, and all is right. So look at this morning when His Holiness giving a lot of teaching, and I forgot to put the comment off, and then I can see all these comments of going up and down. So it's but anyway, there were like most of them positive, but there are also negative ones too. So this negative mind has to pay some its consequences. There is a consequences, but we don't feel that. But somehow it happens in the next life. We already forgot that. Then we have to pay the ransom, and then not a pay ransom, pay the debt, and then you say, why me? That's we are always saying, why me? So Shantideva is saying, yes, that's you, because you have something unfinished business. And then this is a very strong practice, because the one benefit of having a faith in the law of causality, we don't get any shock. That's what I believe, because the great Katamba Lamas, when they hear somebody passed away, and then first there is like a shocking moment, and then they will say, oh, that poor sentient being, now it's passed. So it's like a very kind of unbelievable news. And then automatically the Katamba Lamas, what they will say, oh, they died. Then what will they say is, they die because they do have the English, and I don't know. Here June Shivris, Nadu June Navaris. Here Shitu June Shivris, Nadu June Navaris.
So if you have the causes of death, you'll die, and if you have the causes to be sick, you'll die. You'll get sick.
Yeah. So we can only say this when we have a strong faith in a law of causality. Otherwise, we all believe the person who is born, they have to die. We say that like we know it. But somehow something comes up in front of your eye, suddenly. So your close friend dies, one of your family member dies. Then there is like so much clanking, so much kind of shock. Because one reason is we love them so much. That's it. Quite good reason. But still, you cannot face the reality. But somehow we have to face the reality. Why we couldn't face the reality? I think, like a Katamba Lamas, they can face it, or we cannot face it, because we don't have a strong kind of faith in the law of causality. If someone comes, when you are in a kind of so much grief, if somebody comes in front of you, say, oh, he or she died because she has the causes and conditions to die, it will be like a very bad to what you paying kind of condolence to them. But for Kadamba Lamas, they will love to hear this. But for us, we need to, that's why for kind of a person like me, when somebody in the family member passes away and I have to give advice, it's a really difficult one. What should I say? My condolence. Condolence is a very short word and not much having meaning there. Saying like I'm with you to cry with. That's not such a. But for me, as the title, I have a call Rinpoche, and then I have to give advice. But the person, it depends on the person. If the person is a great practitioner already, so then I can like, okay, no worry. So if I can say that, then automatically that person has to have kind of a, his grip or his clinging, he is so much grasping should be reduced. Maybe this is my opinion. I don't know. But the way I hear when Kadamba Lama's way the response to the when they hear some tragedy, their answer will be like that. So then how they calm their mind, they calm their students' mind. This is the way. This is the method. So maybe we should think about this. And this is one benefit of thinking law of causality. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. Similarly here. So this today, there are so many people, but for me and this my teacher who is my enemy, who beat me, or he said something bad to me, who he hurt me physically already, or physically tani karsa juni ne badil karsa
Indirectly.
directly or indirectly, indirectly he hurt me. Why this timing? This is actually the Buddha can only answer that, but somehow what we can answer is this is something I have 100% sure that I have done something wrong in my previous karma. And then this is one kind of the best purification, I think. If we can do it, it's very, 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 very hard to bring this practice on. But if we can purify this, if you can say yes, I have just the karma has ripened, right? The karma has ripened. Ripened. Sorry, karma has ripened. So I'm really thankful this thing ripened in this life where I have met Dharma and the right guidance. Now I have the right antidote. It is before the corona thing. Now we have a vaccine. Now I'm happy that the corona is here. Now I can do the vaccination. And now I feel I don't need to afraid anymore. And then you bring more kind of faith towards in yourself and to the refuge, the rituals. This is the good kind of timing to purify. The keyword that to highlight here is they have a right to No, but, how was the translation? Kelsey, can you read the?
Therefore, it is right for this harm to be returned to me.
Okay, they have a right to return the harm to me.
Yeah.
This is the key. And this difficult to answer, then we have to think whether there is the continuous of the consciousness and the past life and future life. This is the very important point here. And here we will willing to know whether there's past and future life. Normally, we don't care, but here it's a very good point to be meditated on here. And now we are moving on to what's number 43. I love this one for number 43. I love the whole Shantidevas, but this is particularly, it's a really nice one. Di chöndan dagi lu, nigo dungyin gyuyinde, di chön dagi lu chungna, kanshilan torcha. 43, please.
Both the weapon and my body are the causes of my suffering. Since the other gave rise to the weapon, and I to the body, with whom should I be angry?
Now, if we think they have a right to harm me, okay? They have a right to return the harm to me. Two reasons. First, I have done something wrong in my previous life, and it's returning cycling. Here, then the verse number 43, it's really good. It's saying that if we have this body and it's a right kind of a right target, never study.
It's the yeah. There's a right focus or focal point of the anger. Yeah, of the
to
anger.
Bring the harm on.
Sorry, the harm. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
to bring the harm on. So
yeah.
We have the perfect the form to be attacked on or to bring the harm. So the person who harms and throws a weapon or a stick or stones or anything there are the two things together which meets, then the anger comes up. Now my English is going down. Low energy. So tinda 제장가 사지 녀월에 풍부세. 다디 고야 크리나 등도 봐. 사지 녀월에 풍부세디 아니 아주 동행 당 주르 동행이기 땡치기요 봐. 땡치기요레스. 땡치에서 난들 고마고 요래. 단다 디고 땡치에서 유치에서들 권해야고요. 유치도스나 주세드 가래 아주 드렸다비가를 가르치나 나로스 중앙 세주래. 거기 나로스 중앙 임비나 그 주세 상담도 거기 뇌를 충분히 봤어. 그걸 디 중부 인상 안티 용구르스. 동이 치면 용구르스. 디 상담도 전에 제상가 수구 딘디지 쳇체 아니 전 주나 나그레 스미그 도자 라베나 셈르 느그레 시드 다 가족이 캬바 두지기 동네 등의 송원도 전에 풍부하게 된 것을 봐. 다시 풍부하고 제장을 류를 주는 나그리 샘 칸에 두자시나 샘을 누그리 아니 삼로 당당자 면적 토네 아니 투두에 두시 투두세 또 시제 풍풍할 반자롱돼 아니 제장가 이게 상마 코랑기 뇌께서기 시차당 창대 요지되셨어 그 비기는 슈버 잠시라면 두스 슈서 코랑 아주만 손에 들이셨어 뇌 추조도 유교들이셨지 第五度第一春呢大你的东西居因的第一春大有对春呢康熙兰托是的空着山呢假话了空着山给你把说是旅店定这几年不得了呀空着山给你把事情第五度啊
Dedim şey kaldı. Lüden sikti sonra.
记住记住吧出学不印象学不得了空着山给你把学识定这几个东西解释的是定这几乐章 아니 콘도 지금 봐서 콘도 산은 사념을 셨어.
Yeah.
니소도 균니소.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think also this verse here, verse number 43, yeah, and it also connects. It very importantly connects with thinking about the contaminated the appropriated contaminated aggregates. And when we talk about the appropriated contaminated aggregates, we also talk in them in the sense that they're said to be a kind of basis of the first two sufferings, the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change. And when we speak like that, we have to think about what there are many ways to explain how the appropriated contaminated aggregates become the cause, become the basis for the suffering of suffering and suffering of change. But I think the best way to explain it is in terms of them being a cause. And when we talk about cause, if we look into the sort of the preliminary sort of topics, collected topics in the kind of studies programs, then when we talk about cause, we mean something that came prior to this, and so something coming before this, and then this will arise. So that kind of understanding, and so that the contaminated because the appropriated contaminated aggregates are kind of like prior, and then the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change kind of arise out of them. So we have two things. You have the body in this verse, the shloka here. You have the body and the weapon, and then kind of coming together of those two, the hitting with the weapon, the body, and the coming together of those two, and on the basis of that, you have harm arises to the body. People. So when if we think of this in terms of the all-pervasive contaminated aggregates, so in terms of all of the 5 aggregates which are contaminated and all-pervasive, as they're called, then you can also think in terms of things like being beaten as a harm to the body, people saying all kinds of bad things to us which can also harm our mind. And so in this way we can see that the 5 contaminated aggregates are all the basis for the other harms and sufferings that arise to us. But we have to think like but there's 2 things that are coming together here. There's it's not just the hitting with a stick, or it's not just the hitting which is causal here. It's also that we have to think that there's also another factor, which is that there's the hitting of the body, but there's also hitting of the body driven by the anger, but there's also the body itself, and these are 2 factors. And so when we read in the verse, both the weapon and my body are the causes of my suffering, since the other gave rise to the weapon and I to the body, with whom should I be angry? So there's a sense of where is the anger to be focused, since there are 2 factors which are causal in producing the harm that we respond to with anger.
어디 제가 아주 땡제 양라 중이게 나로라야. 아니 남자분들 좀 벌마 지금도 잠배 통화 머리바 슬랍 인터넷마 아니 지게 세디다 아니 제 신기 아니 땡제니도 제 거래 잡지 연구요. 제가 말하는 저기 다지기 제가 것이도 저 그거는 레벨에 시도 좀 또 야투제 다 담아대 이거 통화 머리벌이야 투버지 송구요. 디에 semble pemboyore ina yang ni gengi karasongo yuchebena an tar bunya na marigo badon ro mogona ya anso ke chishe jingaran jule tangbo wachula ya kayu layu samtan chi karadusla na ani 동인 nyoma chikta sugul ya nasa chungba ta tinje kar ya samlo tang de sembe ani tinje saje nyawale be phungbu di ani ta 막 가르치는 나고요. 아 가르치는 쌤 누구고요? 두서 상로당 안 되는데 시 가르치셔야지. 아니 사진 예월에 공부 딘디질렘 받지 그러셨어. 사진 예월에 공부 딘디질렘 받지 가르를 하셔야지. 머리 버려야 조금만 제 남상. 남상 가진 깨와디 그러셨어. 됐다. 깨와리야 두셔. 다디 문에 되는 란주 좀 된디게 들어도 와. 예. 당화 좀 지를 가르쳐서나 타 코알리야 양내 양도 깨고 주나 깔레 레샤 세티 dingazo koala yang yang do kewe na tarsa mindus dungi karjanasana aran chu phungbunga dungi gi tenchini phungbunga ti khatu yine contaminated sigra nga jo yin chi kela ya ota ko nyamdo yongyong bres tanda mena shuma tenden gyurumbu yo marista ko lamsam ti chagres dungi gi tenchi gi bores changa ko dungi majeran chi seundu jambe 동해께서 땡 디코랑 가와는 중샤스네 깨월 때는 중샤 다 깨와 윤제고 그랬어요 얘랑 라좀 봐도 가르방을 뛰고 타르바세야 돼 봐. 뉴모 미시베 몽바 세고에 가진스나 듬생하는 깨와도 매우서 레니용이 깨와도 매우서도 세 다삼을 때 레니용이 깨와 매우서도 저 세상가 보디사모 담비나 단다데 다가랑 차송아 류 딘디 용을 때니 동이 되다 용벌이 다류 되다 용고에 중요 가시는 아니 겨울에 되겠다 아니 겨울 준지하고도 수도 신에 아니 다 타버스니 스토비 요르베 아니 가서를 아니 머리 비꾸는 말하는 겨울에 요르베 신수도 계지니 버봐
So in this verse, I also would like to relate to in terms of the 12 links of dependent, or the cycle of the 12 links of dependent and origination, which traditionally begins with a kind of beginningless ignorance, and then you work through the cycle, and that involves both the various links within this life and and then that leads on to circling through samsara in future lives, and at the end of the last of the links we have birth and death, and then that kind of meets up with beginningless ignorance. But we don't, if we don't sort of go into that kind of more difficult level of detail, if we just think in terms of a sort of more shorter term way of thinking about this in terms of beginners, when things like our body becomes sick, when our mind is in pain, or our body is sick, or our mind is in pain, then this is what's it related to? It's related to the 5 appropriated contaminated aggregates. The basis is and so the 5 appropriated contaminated aggregates are kind of like the basis for this. And then if we start to follow, so where do they, then we start to follow the chain of the causal chain of those 5 contaminated aggregates, and we follow it back, and then we come to back to ignorance, and then back, but then we come to birth. So these 12 dependent 12 dependent links are a kind of like an oral instruction from the Buddha saying, look, this samsaric process is circling around in this samsaric process from birth to birth is an extremely difficult and painful thing, and the taking up or the appropriating of the 5 contaminated aggregates which are suffering in nature is a very difficult thing. And so if the 5 contaminated aggregates are there, it's suffering is just around the corner. It's always going to be some kind of causal relation which will bring us some form of suffering. So then if we think, well, what do we have to do in order to stop the appropriating the contaminated aggregates? And then one of my teachers said that a very important thing to think about is birth, that we have to cut off birth into this contaminated process. The hearers and the sort of arhats from the hearers and the hearers and solitary realizers look to this process of cutting birth and achieving liberation, and understanding that it's the misunderstanding of how the mental afflictions drive that process, and therefore that the birth is the process of being born is driven by karma and mental afflictions, and then of course that this contaminated body and aggregates come from birth. So therefore you look to be able to cut off birth, and also you ask the question, is it possible to attain a kind of liberation where the process of being born again and again in the cycle is finished? Is it possible to have a liberation where where there's a kind of there's a liberation from that cycle of being born with these contaminated aggregates or not?
Da shibshiba 44 shuwa mi sudawa reto mi su tungjin sedong da yu sungyu na tell never sula toes 44 please.
If in blind attachment I cling to the suffering abscess of a human form, which cannot bear to be touched, with whom should I be angry with when it is hurt?
Mi sudawa. Kelsila, can you say that the first line, please?
If in blind attachment I cling.
And then second?
To the suffering abscess of a human form.
No. Dawa said it way.
Shubha digi abscess dosh lakdua abscess or sore.
Mi sudawas.
There's
Mi sudawas says to it.
Like this detail. It doesn't say draw, no, it doesn't really have that in there. Yeah, it doesn't say like, it is liken the abscess to the human form to an abscess.
아주 수구디 슈와 첨부지다 저그랬어. 슈와 시디 하고 왜 가서 인지계를 가서 그래.
You can call it an abscess or a sore, yeah, a wound.
Sore. 제장아 좀 와서 툭 쳐보다 낮춰줘 드려 봐. 거전서는 아주 남주균도 디요 말 봐. 다 소르라비나 콜 툭 쳐보다. 제장 수구디 또제 낮춰줘 차줘줘 수구지 차디요로 다티 아주 켈랭고요. 제가anga 딘지기 푸도 줘줘. Very sensitive. right? 아주 human somehow when we are healthy we feel like we can so much energy there, but one small thing, something like eat food, little bit of something mixing problem in stomach, then yesterday person who has full of energy, the next day he has lost his smile and whole thing, it's a So this is the reality. This is our body. So here it's saying the very sensitive body. So that's what Shantideva is saying. It's like a sensitive, like a soul, soul. But who give this body? That we have to ask. Shantideva is saying, who is the donor? Donor is where?
I'm trying to think what's the who's the
sponsor?
The creator, the creator.
Take handy.
Who gave the donor?
Who made the contribution?
Yeah.
We get this, so we have to ask who made the contribution to us. Is the seba, the attachment, the clinging attachment. Seba. Don't say what? Don't say the injecting cardio. Don't say the cardio.
It means to be made blind by or infatuated
by. To make blind say the don't say the nyamba set. Blind chechuba. Blind rama ko che. Blind chechubal ko. Who make us the blind? Teacher.
Yeah.
Who make us blind, not seeing the reality? Right? We are so deluded.
Yeah.
We don't know that we are deluded. That's the delusion. That's the pure delusion.
Yes.
What the sign of one good sign of delusion is you don't know you are deluded. That's perfect delusion. Can we say that? I think so.
Yes.
The attachment really gives you the clinging, and then ignorance mind has contributed us to let us not know the reality. So the two, who are our two big sponsors? So these are the two. So this we are holding these 5 aggregates, which is kind of contaminated by the ignorance and then the attachment. The attachment action is clinging to the 5 aggregates. And then ignorance mind is not let us knowing the reality. So nyam dong se te se the dong se tag sung duruna tell never sulato. Now this kind of very actually this is kadesa that the sikwaran to see tanda to lapshan digmito tanda chemejan sumo juna chemejan jumni be tell no di karsulata duslam digmento ta jazanga dule da nyumuni gi shal ten ta lanzu masone gyudin dichigil ten chungsha gyugi ane suguinere seminere a dindichig sem telaya azumason neson slamna ani pechig semnaro moji biche ko skemdus right dilam diserwa
sem
moji but kechego medus karchene kondo sakore sagoya koramdus.
Yeah. So since this whether we talk in relation to our body or our mind, they're all undriven by they're other-powered by the causes of karma and mental afflictions. And so why would we sort of feel why would we feel that to sort of to feel that harm, because they're just driven by that process of being other powered by mental afflictions and karma. And so why would we, because they last the rimshi kariso
그디
tama
세상가 never dindichi mission big never 깨봤다 아니 지금 semba마지 버쳐버이나 아니 텔야 지기 좀 늘렌 떼고 삼삼
yeah, so we don't, why would we
늘렌 떼나 띠린 케미도스.
Yeah. So there's no reason to retaliate, because this is the when harm comes, there's no reason to get upset and feel angry or feel the need to retaliate or to be mentally unhappy, because this is the situation that you're driven. The body and the mind are driven by the other powered by karma and mental afflictions.
세상가 never 늘렌 띠린 케미도. There's no reason to retaliate to others level way to others,
no reason to retaliate to others,
to others, but it is the only the good thing from take away from this kind of experience is, if you really want to retaliate. Okay, this is a new word. Retaliate is to going back to the checking the two sponsors, to mind which has given us this suffering. That's why.
Yes.
So that's why the great lamas, I have met such great lamas, and including my teachers. So what they do is, when they are feeling in a pain, have a stomach ache, so they take this as a blessing. Normally, taking this as blessing is, I don't believe. This is not a blessing actually. But for them, they can take it to a blessing, because this they can go and retaliate to the two big sponsors. So then they feel very fortunate to have this pain in this life. And then people who do Tonglen, this is where it meets the not only thinking about this, but taking this pain, making this pain much more beneficial. And we Tibetan have saying, I'm such a good friend of yours. If you suffer, I suffer. If you happy, I am happy. So that's what we have saying. So similar, this practice, the Tonglen comes in after that, I think. So this is a very powerful practice actually. Okay, thank you very much. So 1 hour finish. So I have done my work now. Just kidding. Yeah, so then so then I will see you on the next Wednesday. And most important, this morning when His Holiness teaching, what are the main thing that you can to contemplate? What are the points that His Holiness has put in front of you, all of us, that we shouldn't forget? Maybe I don't need to repeat. Anyway, you all try to think and contemplate, and somehow try to make a connection with His Holiness teaching and Shantideva's teaching. Try to combine it. Okay, so that's if we can meet. We can. We should be like a the like an agent. Like agent that like a travel agent to make a connection to the company and to your own feeling. You just have to make a connection.
A ticket to
Right.
Nirvana. Ticket to Nirvana.
What's that?
A ticket
to the Nirvana. That's better, much better. Yes. Try to do that. So what His Holiness said about the Nagarjuna and Shantideva, and what His Holiness do, there are few occasions His Holiness is trying to give us a signal. Try to catch that. So what he said, due to the through this debate system, and then about the karsa, the samjung sharab karsa,
the wisdom which arises from contemplation,
the wisdom which arises from the contemplation, and then wisdom which karsa arises from the karsa concentration to gomjung.
Meditation.
Meditation. He said it's kind of 100% sure that this debate really helps. But normally, many people have a doubt that the method or the techniques of debating is just to make person more crazy, or more kind of like a way saying things and not much to do with the practice. I don't know how to say that in it.
Just to make you make you easy to because they're easy to talk about things, but not
talk about things, and then more pride. But we never just have much feeling about, because it's not in our habit. So we had to adapt this. So bringing it's not to debate with other people. Actually, it's a debate to yourself, because the doubt is here, because doubt is not there. So His Holiness give kind of a very clear image about how this debate system really helps his practices. And then if you go look at the Lamrim Chemo, Lama Tsongkhapa, very clear statement. And then he didn't say that you have to do it. It's the logic how it flows. He said, Buddha himself and then the great masters, they again and again bring the logics in front of us. So, and then you look at this book, Shantideva's book, it's full of logic. It's not to tell other people do this and don't do this. Right now I'm doing this, but if I am a good practitioner, I should be telling myself all this and giving myself the advice what Shantideva has shared. Okay, once I say it, then I don't know how to stop. So somehow here I have to stop here. Okay, thank you very much, and good night. And again, I request you to think about what His Holiness has given us the advice. We should be very grateful to that. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you on next Wednesday.
The dedication, Rinpoche, the dedication.
What? Oh, dedication. Oh, forgetting the dedication. Thank you, Alvaro. Okay, Champa Chimbala.
Yes, Rinpoche.
Okay, in English, please.
Sure. So in the sense of Serkong group, having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I've heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue, where the dedication praised as the best, by the all gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times, in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.